The whole street iced over whilst 3 black SUVs rolled into Zuri's dusty compound at the edge of Accra. Engines hummed. Doorways stayed close. Friends pressed in opposition to their gates, whispering. Zuri stood barefoot on the cracked step of her tiny house, her heart beating tough. Beside her, the blind beggar she had added home only mins in the beyond did a few element impossible. He stood up with Werntered. He took off his darkish glasses. He pulled the tattered kente cloth over his head, and beneath it turned into a crisp white blouse and a properly tailored jacket. The man anybody had walked beyond within the market regarded new, sharp, and powerful. Zuri's worn mouth opened, but no phrases came worn out. The man warned out her with kind eyes. "Zuri," he said softly, "you haven't any idea who I'm." The SUVs went silent. A cause for stepped tired and raised a cell phone to his ear. Zuri's knees felt weak. Hours in advance that morning, heat rose from the red earth because the sun climbed over the low roofs of a shoddy settlement. The corrugated zinc sheets at the roadside shops glowed. Buses honked. Hawkers called tired their wares. Herbal water, roasted groundnuts, bread. Zuri walked fast, head down, her belly empty. She had become 18 thin from many days like this. And on her way to the market to preserve masses for human beings, it worn out to be her heinous manner to buy food for the day. She saved her mom, as words in her thoughts, the phrases that had helped her within the darkest nights, for the purpose that twist of fate that took every her parents. Kindness unearths its manner returned. In no way permit your coronary heart close to. Zuri touched the worn strap of her small bag. Worn out to be her most treasured element, a folded image of her together with her mother and father inside the front of this identical little house. All 3 smiling, eyes on the bend near the pepper dealers. She noticed him. An antique man sat at the floor with the aid of the gutter, skinny and thin, his agbada torn at the shoulder. Dark glasses protected his eyes. A on-foot stick lay through and toward his knees. His lips had been dry. He held worn out one trembling hand, palm open, inquiring for assist. People walked around him like he changed right into a stone in the road. "Abek Schiff," someone pushing a wheelbarrow stated, bumping past without searching. 2 schoolboys snickered and moved quickly through. A female promoting tomatoes shook her head. "Kai, anywhere problem. Who cross-assists who?" Zuri slowed. The organization flowed on. The antique man, as head tilted towards the sound of toes like he ought to pay attention, helped within the air and become waiting to capture it. Zuri's chest hurt. She checked worn-tired the coins in her bag. Not enough for bread. Now not sufficient for something. She knelt. "Right morning, sir," she stated. "Do you want water?" His Mtire moved. "Water," he whispered. Zuri rose, rushed to the closest dealer, and begged for a small sash. The lady sighed but surpassed one over. "Take. However, that is the very last I'm capable of do these days." "Thanks," Zuri said, and ran back. She tore the threshold and guided the water to the vintage guy's arms. He drank slowly, like preventing a fireplace inside his throat. At the same time as he finished, he took a deep breath and rested the empty sash in his palm. "Thanks, daughter," he said. His voice changed in the low and ordinary. "My call is Kofi Mensah." "Zuri," she answered. "I live close by." He nodded toward the sound of her voice. "I have nowhere to head. I haven't any eyes to look the road and nobody to guide me." "Will you? Will you take me in as a father?" His head bowed as he spoke. "I will not be a burden. I just want a nook to lie down, even for someday." Zuri's breath stuck. "Take him in." She had a mat and an antique fan that high quality worked when there was moderate. She had no food. She had no money. Her plan for nowadays had become to preserve baskets till her bones burned, then purchase gari and a few greens. That worn out it. A female sporting yams stopped and stared. "Little female," she stated to Zuri, "use your experience. Search around. Each person is hungry. You cannot feed the whole international." Zuri seemed up at her. "I understand," she stated quietly. "But I will help one character. The lady shook her head and walked away. Website traffic hissed. A bus belched smoke. The vintage guy's hand trembled inside the air like a query. Zuri stood, slid her shoulder under his arm, and lifted. He turned into lighter than she expected. She placed to stop her small shoulder and held the taking walk stick in her personal hand. "Sir, I can take you home first," she said. "You could relaxation there." They moved slowly through the group. People glanced at them and appeared away. A boy muttered, "Nah problem." Zuri saved walking. The street worn out of the marketplace became hot beneath her feet, but she did not prevent. At the edge of the settlement, the homes thinned tired. Tall grasses grew along the sandy worn out. Her residence stood in the again of a leaning fence, its paint antique however smooth. She opened the gate and driven the door collectively along with her hip. The small dwelling room held a fan, a plastic chair, and a skinny mat unfold on the floor. Daylight hours fell in a neat square for the duration of the cracked tiles. Zuri guided the person to the mat. He sat with a tender sigh. "I'm able to get you extra water," she stated. She filled a cup from her blue field and exceeded it to him with each hand. He drank. The traces on his brow eased. "Relaxation right here," Zuri stated, setting the arm footstick within the tane. "Please, sir, I need to transport decrease lower back to the marketplace. I carry loads for human beings to earn money. I can buy food for us whilst I'm returning." The antique guy lifted his head. "You?" "Sure," she stated, amazed at how high quality her voice sounded. "You and me." He had become quiet. Then he requested, "In which are your mother and father?" Zuri's throat tightened. She sat at the floor beside the mat, her once more in opposition to the wall. "They are long gone," she said. "An automobile crashed very last 1 year. There's been fireplace. The buddies came past due. I was 17. Now I'm 18. I'm by myself." The vintage guy's tirade moved like he preferred to say he become sorry, but no terms got here. He grew to emerge and stared his face toward her, as despite the fact that looking with the eyes behind the glasses. "You said you are by myself," he murmured. "And however you introduced me in." "My mother taught me something," Zuri said, and pressed her palm on the faded tile to prevent her hand from shaking. She stated, "Even though no man or woman allows you, do no longer turn your return at the assist you could deliver. I try to hold that even if I'm hungry." A small smile touched the vintage guy's lips. He became his hand and determined hers at the ground. His arms had been heat and regular. "Zuri," he stated, "you've got a strong heart." She rose. "Allow me hurry earlier than the solar gets warmer. I'll be decreased lower back with food." She tucked her family image from her bag right into a crack in the wall wherein she always saved it comfy, and reached for the door. "Wait," the antique man stated. Zuri paused, his chin lifted, his once more straightened, and then he did a component that made time for stall. He pushed himself to his feet. He took off the dark glasses. He pulled the torn kente fabric over his head. Below his shirt ended up easy and tucked in the nicely pressed trousers. He regarded taller, extra younger, and all at once very familiar. Zuri blinked speedy, looking to make experience of what she noticed. "I don't apprehend," she whispered. The person's eyes had been clean, and he worn out looked at her completely for the number 1 time. "I am no longer blind, Zuri," he stated gently. "My name is Leader Kwame Mensah. I am the CEO of Mensah Enterprise." Zuri felt the room tilt. She had seen that face on television in stores wherein people accumulated to observe information, and she had heard that call at the same time as buses exceeded billboards. The person on her mat in her small house was a billionaire. He held up his smartphone and dialed some of. "Come to this cope with," he stated. His voice turned Warren Tire Company now, the voice of someone used to being obeyed. "Supply the vehicles." He ended the call and became returned to Zuri. "I got here right here nowadays and hide." I wanted to appearance how people cope with someone without electricity or wealth. On the marketplace, they walked past me. They did not see me, however you possibly did. Zuri tried to speak, however most effective a dry sound came worn out. She touched the wall to consistent herself. Do no longer be afraid, Leader Mensah stated. I cannot harm you. You opened your door to me while you had almost no longer whatever. Because of that, I'm capable of open mind to you. Engines rumble weren't tired. Zuri stepped to the door and peered through the crack. 3 black SUVs became off the sandy roaring tired and lined up in the front of her fence. Dust floated in the sunlight like tiny stars. Neighbors accumulated, pointing, eyes extensive. Leader Mensah appeared around her little room. His gaze rested on the cracked place in which Zuri had tucked her circle of relatives' photograph. He observed the careful sweep of the ground, the neat stack of university books, the single plastic chair that shone from being wiped again and again. He nodded to himself as although those small topics instructed him a reality he depended on. A cause pressure in a neat fit opened the gate. Sir, he referred to as. Leader Mensah confronted Zuri. Pick weren't tired, the subjects that don't forget most of you, he said. We are leaving. Zuri stared at him. Leave? Passing which? Her coronary heart broke open with worry and hope on the equal time. She moved to the wall, pulled worn out the folded circle of relatives' photograph, and held it to her chest. Her eyes stung. She worn out hired her books. She checked weren't tired the mat. She checked weren't tired the door wherein the sun reduced a colorful line for the duration of the floor like a step into some different lifestyles. Now, she asked, voice small. Chief Mensah smiled softly. Now, the number 1 SUV door clicked open. Pals pressed nearer. Zuri took a breath, reached for her books with trembling palms, and a sharp knock thundered towards the doorframe, loud sufficient to shake the little house.